Jordan, do authorities now have a handle on this? Is it contained?
I wouldn't say it's contained, but I would say, they've gotten the attackers have the misfortune of attracting the attention of basically the entire cybersecurity community. So that's going to make their job and has made their job, a whole heck of a lot harder. So I wouldn't say it's contained, but I would say anytime, these attackers have released at least a couple new variants of this malware over the weekend, and every time they have, researchers have found a way to neutralize it. So you're still going to see infections, especially in places where they're running older versions of Windows that are not easily updated, such as ATMs and gas station pumps and private networks inside, hospital organizations and things like that. But I will say that, again, these hackers, have their job is a whole lot harder now because the cybersecurity community is looking at them very intensely.
So, Jordan, clearly there's Europol that's working on this, but outside of Europol, how are countries approaching it, and are they cooperating? Which countries work with one another on this?
Well, I think at this point it's a really global effort. You've got private sector cybersecurity companies plus governments, basically urging companies to do what's considered good internet security hygiene, which is if you're running a patchable version of Windows, to install the patch that was issued back in March. The trickier part becomes, what about organizations that are running unsupported versions of Windows? Windows XP, old versions of Windows Server. Microsoft has taken the very rare step of issuing patches for those machines as well. But the reason people are still using those old systems is they're in places that are hard to reach, like ATMs and gas station pumps and these private networks. So, the very reason that they're using this old software is because those machines are not updated very often. And that's a harder problem. Companies just really have to take the initiative and fix those machines themselves.
So what about Microsoft itself, Jordan? What does the scale of this attack tell us about the need of Microsoft to strengthen its own capabilities?
Well, Microsoft came out this weekend and they blamed, predictably, the U.S. government and the National Security Agency. And Microsoft says if governments wouldn't stockpile vulnerabilities, this wouldn't be an issue. Now, that's received a lot of pushback from folks, current and former intelligence folks, who say that's not a realistic way to look at the world. Governments will hack. And there are a lot of folks in the cybersecurity community who would say it's Microsoft's responsibility to release secure code. So that argument is going to go on back and forth. But one thing I did want to mention is that, one of the problems these hackers have at this point is that irrespective of how many computers they infect, is, they have told victims to pay them money via Bitcoin to what, now are the most intensively watched Bitcoin wallets on the planet. They're not going to be able to get this money out. So, if you had to grade this attack, it's largely been kind of ineffective from the attacker's standpoint because they can't get paid.
Jordan, do we have a figure how much ransomware could reap attackers financially? Is there a revenue figure out there?
Yeah, one of the figures that we've heard is that, especially before this attack, is that ransomware is at least $1 billion a year industry, and probably more. It's a very opaque market. But this is one of the biggest types of cybersecurity threat that we're all going to face in the future. Because as we've seen here, it's one thing to steal data. Everybody's concerned about that. But as we saw with Sony and what happened to the movie studio, and as we saw in Britain, what happened with the hospitals, it's another thing entirely to shut down computers. When you shut down a computer, you've disrupted service. That's a much bigger problem in many ways than stealing data.